And now, the LSU Football Fix with Preston Guy, presented by TigerBait, starts now.
And we are back. It's been another long off season, but as y'all all well know, this is my favorite time of the year because we have football back and we have fall camp with LSU football team. So tonight I've got Zack Nagy, publisher at LSU Country on si.com, joining me today. He's been all over practice. It's been nice and cool and breezy, about 68, right? And it's been an easy assignment. So we're going to be talking about LSU's practice tonight. We're going to, here's a rundown. We're going to touch on some recruiting in segment one. We're going to discuss, of course, LSU practice ad nauseum, all of the practices. Mondo Duplantis, boy, look, it's a football show, but we got to give our shout out to Mondo today, man. Then we're going to kind of break it up. We're going to go into offense. We're going to go through the starting lineup on offense and defense and give us some thoughts, some key backups, some position battles to watch. And we're just going to go through some more broad observations. So with that being said, my co-host rejoins me for another season of the LSU Football Fix. Season 6 in the books, y'all. 6 years going at this. 6 years ago when we started, Joe Burrow was slinging the ball around. It was a humble beginning. We didn't have a ton of traction, but now we do. Now we've got y'all. 31,000 subscribers. We hit that today, and we keep on growing. And for season 6, of course, Zack Nagy joins us for this season. What's going on, Zack?
Not too much, man. You can tell I'm obviously sun-kissed after being in that sun for the last couple of days. But all's good on this end. It's been fun checking out the team. Fall camp's in full swing now. They were in full pads today. So kind of just getting it swinging and checking out the team. And look, I'm excited about what we got here. I've been impressed with a lot of areas of the team, but we'll get into that later. And let's get things going in season 2 for me.
All right, we're going to jump straight into some comments and some just more rounded observations before we go dive into some specific targeted stuff. First off, I do have to apologize. This is from the person whose name I'll never be able to pronounce. So much for the APM start. We had a little bit of technical difficulty, some minor quality issues we were trying to smooth out as we were trying to go live. You know, it's me and Zach's first time back, and boy, it's 6 months. Hal Jubin, finally, here we go. That's right. We're finally back. Stephen Miller, yo, welcome back. Welcome back, boys. Indeed. It feels great. And look, we got 2 questions, both Zack questions here. So you're popular. It's the LSU Football Fix with Zack Nagy tonight. Zack, how does Paez and Sugg look? And look, the next comment here kind of goes hand in hand. Zack writing good things about Dom McKinley. What you seen out of those guys? Were you surprised at all to see Gio get starting spot right out the bat?
Yeah, no, kind of to start off on that first question. Look, Paez has been a guy, he's a savvy veteran, and Bo Davis is relying on his veterans right now to step into the mix. So he's been a player that they've relied on heavily here through the first 4 days of camp. He's looked solid, but it's going to be a battle down the stretch of fall camp to see who gets that week 1 start. So for me, look, Paez has looked good. I've been impressed with what he's done, but it's been a small sample size. And speaking on Suggs, look, there hasn't been a lot of Suggs for me. I haven't seen him get too many second-team reps. With that second-team defensive line, it's been a majority of Shone Washington and Kimo Makinole. So not a lot of JVR Suggs so far, but I think eventually he's going to work himself into the mix eventually. So I expect to see good things from him sooner rather than later. They got some guys in the defensive line room. It's going to be a by committee type of group. But speaking on just those 2 guys alone, Paez has looked solid, not too much Suggs. And then kind of hitting on that second question about Dominic McKinley, look, he looks the full 6'6", 315. I mean, that dude looks like a monster. I was speaking to Mike the other day at practice, and he was kind of telling me he might look a little too big. He might need to he moves well for his size, but man, he looks big as heck is what I'll say. We'll keep it PG here, but man, he looks like a monster, and I'm excited to see what he can bring. But they're certainly easing him into the rotation here. He's rotating it a little bit with the second team, but not too much. So they're gonna ease him in there. So I'm excited to see what the trio of newcomers on the defensive line can do.
I'll say this about Dom McKinley. Physically, he absolutely looks the part. We all knew that. A lot of times those big guys, though, they got to learn to play with leverage. fundamentals, techniques of the defensive. It's such a technical position. That's kind of what I'm looking for to see how he develops into. You know what surprised me though? Sean Washington really physically looks the part. You see why he was so highly recruited out of high school. It didn't really work out at Georgia, and I guess people weren't expecting much. But my goodness, doesn't he? Am I the only one that kind of caught him off guard looking at him this fall camp? Like physically, dude looks ready.
Yeah, he's a really big athlete for sure. That it's kind of obvious when you're talking about defensive linemen, but to what you're saying, yeah, he looks the part, and it's interesting. He wasn't getting that many reps in the spring, but now he's kind of jumped up to the second team for the defensive line. So I'm intrigued with what he can provide this program. And look, Louisiana ties. This is a Louisiana native, was committed to LSU, ultimately went over to Georgia before going the JUCO route. So this is a guy who I'm really excited to see what he can provide this defensive line, whether it's taking a backup role or, asserting himself as a starter if he continues to dominate in camp. But I think he's got some time to develop. I think you're going to see a couple of guys step in here.
Okay, so real quick, I want to kind of shift gears a little bit. I guess there's no real smooth way when 80-90% of your show is going to be about a football team practicing. But man, we got to give a shout out to Mondo Duplantis, LSU former track star, pole vaulter. He not only broke the Olympic record today, he broke the Olympic record, secured his gold medal at a 6.1 meter jump today. He followed that up with a 6.25 meter jump, which breaks his own world record, all settings, all scenes for pole vaulting. What an the dude's the GOAT. It's unbelievable. He reps LSU, but he does not rep the United States. He, of course, has the Sweden gear on. I'm told he does that because his dad got to help coach for the Sweden teams. He considers Sweden his second home. And they basically rolled out the red carpet to make him part of the Swiss team there. So congratulations to Mondo Duplantis, man. And look, someone typed Mondo and Sha'Carri Richardson. Sha'Carri Richardson got second, right? Is that right, Zach?
I believe so.
Yeah, she got second in the women's 100-meter dash. So good for her. I saw someone tweet out a picture of those two showing up at LSU campus the same day today. And I had to chuckle. I was like, oh man, he's trying to get a spot on a Nike commercial or something right now. That's wild that you get those two athletes showing up at the same time. Man, it's just a major shout out to Mondo, what he did today. That is unbelievably impressive, taking home the Olympic gold medal. We're going to talk briefly about recruiting. Khalil Lockett, 5-star wide receiver, announces his decision tomorrow, right? Most of the buzz on him is, despite having visited LSU multiple times, most of the buzz is saying that he's going to go play for Texas tomorrow. He's from Texas. All right, if someone from Texas hears me pronounce this city, Shoshk, Texas. So, of course, that's the hometown team. I think he's going to Texas. I think, part of that LSU already has a 5-star receiver, and there's two mentalities when it comes to these skill positions. Some of these guys like to be the guy, the 5-star guy. Some of these guys like to just have a giant party and hop on the bandwagon. Zach, are you getting any good vibes out of Khalil? Am I being Debbie Downer here, or what's the deal?
No, I'm probably going to double down on what you're saying. He took his fair share of official visits this summer. Obviously, Texas, LSU, Alabama snuck in a visit, Florida State. So this is a guy who was well-traveled this summer for sure. But ultimately, Texas has the momentum going into the decision. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up going to Steve Sarkisian in that program over there in Austin. But who knows? Recruiting's so fluid, you never know what's going to happen. But for me, not much LSU buzz on this one. Like you said, they already have their 5-star receiver in Derek Meadows. So we'll see what happens here down the stretch. But all signs certainly point to him becoming a Longhorn.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Right there. And, of course, surprises do happen. I don't have intel or anything. It's just kind of the writing on the wall type of situation here. But let's move on to some maybe a better outlook. CJ Jim Coyley, he's announcing soon, right? They're talking about the 3 or 4-star safety based on which service you're looking at, out of Nashville, Tennessee. Man, He seems like he's all LSU at this point. I talked to him about a month ago and had a good feeling, and nothing since then tells me any different. Some of the national guys are starting to chime in saying they think the same too. What's the Nagy vibe on that?
Yeah, for him, look, this is a player who could really thrive in Blake Baker's scheme. We've seen him add the new star role, which is kind of a safety linebacker hybrid. And for Jim Coyley, he's a really big safety. So for me, I could see him thriving in Blake Baker's defensive scheme. And I think that he thinks the exact same thing because, from my opinion, I feel like all signs point to LSU winning out here come August 8th when he reveals his commitment decision. He's got some heavy hitters among his finalists, but it's an LSU and Stanford battle down the stretch now after kind of trimming his list. And for me, I certainly think LSU wins out here for one of the top safeties in the country, and we'll know on August 8th officially. But I think that CJ Jim Coyley ultimately ends in this 2025 class, and it wouldn't surprise me if he revealed his decision and the Tigers went out here.
You talk about that star position, and Major Burns is the starting star right now, right? And I love that position for him because he's got hybrid tweener written all over him, right?
Yeah,
love that for him. What did surprise me is, who the backup star is right now is Juwan Johnson, Mr. LHSAA all-time leading yardage, career all-time yardage leader, Juwan Johnson. I thought he was going to be a pure cover corner. Of course, you never really know when a guy plays primarily offense for 4 years and you're like, okay, we're going to switch him to DB. You never really know, but I thought he was. Did that catch you off guard to see him at the star spot?
Yeah, I mean, he's transitioning really well to a full-time defensive back role. Obviously, played both sides of the ball, just a true freak athlete in high school. But now, come college, he's a full defensive back full-time. And I did not expect him to go into that star role at all. I'll double down on what you said. That definitely did catch me by surprise. But he's put on a significant amount of size. This is a guy who's sitting around that 200-pound range now at around 5'10", 5'11". I mean, he looks thick on that field. I'll tell you that. He looks big, and he's mobile. Obviously, he showed that in high school. He's a true athlete, but he's moving sideline to sideline. He's getting back in coverage, coming up to the line of scrimmage when need be. So I've been really impressed with what Juwan Johnson provides this program. And if you would have told me a couple of weeks ago that he would have been the backup star, I probably would have laughed and been like, nope, I do not agree with that one there. But
you think he'd be like the four-string corner, right?
I like it. I would have definitely said that he would have been a full-time, boundary corner. But I've been very impressed with what he's provided at the star role, and especially today, man. Major Burns went out with kind of like a minor injury. I think he was cramping up. I can't really give any thoughts on that there. But with Major Burns out, Juwan Johnson took all those first-team reps. So it was impressive to see him on the field there and getting some big-time run. And, look, I've been impressed with what he provides this team.
Guys, if you're enjoying the show, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to our channel. Very proud of how much this channel's grown. 31,000 subscribers we hit today. We're looking to continue growing and just continue being one of the best LSU YouTube channels out there. So make sure to hit that like button. Remember, Mike Scarborough makes fun of me if he gets more likes than me on a weekly basis. So don't let that happen to me, guys. I don't. It really hurts my ego. I'm very fragile. And if he makes fun of me, it ruins my week. It's like taking a loss. You know, people tell you like when LSU loses, it ruins the rest of the week for them. That's how it is for me when Mike Scarborough makes fun of me. It's like, I cannot continue going on. Overall practice takes. I'll start with mine and let Zack ponder about his biggest takeaway here. Number one, it's the lack of surprises. It's so consistent with what we were expecting. A lot of people were asking me, were they surprised to see J.O. Paez inserted as starting? And no, that's the chalk. It's been very chalky for me, but that's kind of a boring thing to lead with. I'll lead with this, that the defense is making plays. The defense is not, now I'm not saying that they're dominating. They're definitely behind the offense, but a year ago, that defense could not stop the offense to save their life. Honestly, if your mother was on life support and you needed that defense to stop Jaden Daniels in his tracks, just wave goodbye to your mom. I hope she has a good life insurance policy because she's done for, man. I mean, it was rough, and probably we in the media should have read the writing on the wall a little more. I suspect that it's we didn't have access to practice during that 2019 season, and we did have full access to 2023, we kind of probably would have known what to expect. But if you listen to stories from players and coaches, that 2019 defense was making some plays on the 2019 offense. As good as that offense was, they were holding their own. That 2023 defense wasn't. And I guess here's where the major takeaway here is. If your offense is winning every single freaking day and every single freaking practice, it's a sign that your defense is bad. Okay. At a certain point, winning, it really just kind of shows off how poor your competition is. It's like when you hear your neighbor's kid is good at Fortnite and you're like, he's never lost a game. And then you see he's been playing in a circle with his 8-year-old friends every week and he's just the best of the 8-year-olds. Okay. Like, no, if you go play in the grown-ups, you're going to eventually run into a brick wall if you're playing any higher level of competition. And that's exactly how I feel about this, is that seeing the defense make some plays is good. It's not, a lot of people are sitting here worrying, is Nussmeier going to turn the ball over too much? Well, I look, man, based on his history last year and in spring, no, you shouldn't see him turn the ball. Probably more than Jaden. Jaden had 4 interceptions last year, but no, I don't think he's going to be a turnover. I just think the defense actually has a pulse this year. What's been your biggest takeaway this fall camp?
Yeah, I went into spring camp just having no expectations for the secondary, to be honest with you. If I'm going to be completely transparent, I thought they were just going to get burnt, kind of like barbecue chicken every single rep. And for me, it's certainly been a breath of fresh air to see somebody like Ashton Stamps step up and take that next step. PJ Woodland emerge. Other guys continue to take the step in the right direction. It's been very impressive for me. So, look, obviously interceptions are going to happen. Bad plays in the secondary, you're going to get beat over the top. It's just football. You're eventually going to get beat over the top, and we've seen that. We saw Jawan Johnson get beat over the top. We saw Zy Alexander get beat over the top today. You know, it's bound to happen, but you're also going to see impressive plays from Garrett Nussmeier like he did today when he went over the top to Chris Hilton. So it's just a matter of time when things like that happen. But to me, if I'm going to sit back and solely talk about the secondary, look, man, I've been so impressed with Ashton Stamps. I'm going to pencil him in as a week 1 starter right now. Locked and loaded. There's no way
really
that I don't.
Because he's been hit and miss in practice from what I've seen. Like
there's no way that I don't see Ashton Stamps as a week 1 starter. He came up with a really impressive red zone pick today during practice. He came up with a really good pick on day 1. So I'm very happy with what Ashton Stamps is providing this defense so far. It's been a breath of fresh air. I've been really impressed with the secondary.
Let me ask you to double down on this. Do you think he's your number 1 corner above Shade Bryan, not only a starter, but your go-to guy?
Yeah, I think Ashton Stamps is your cornerback 1 heading into the 2024 season. Barring anything changing over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, man, we're only in day 4. Anything can happen. It's still super early, and it's really early for me to – it's kind of premature for me to say that Ashton Stamps is your cornerback 1, but – if tomorrow was USC on Tuesday, August 6th, whatever's tomorrow, I would say Ashton Stamps your number 1 corner for sure.
Interesting take, man. I think there's a lot. You know, one of the things that did stand out to me, I kind of was thinking maybe PJ Woodland would push for a starting role. It seems like he's kind of, not that he's distanced himself, but I think the other guys have distanced themselves from PJ Woodland.
That's tough solely because, look, Sage Ryan's getting cross-trained right now. He could fall back to safety if need be. And if that's the case, you could obviously put PJ Woodland up at your second cornerback on the opposite side of Ashton Stamps. We saw that a lot during the spring, and PJ Woodland looked fantastic. He needs to put on a little bit more size, get a little bit more physical at the line of scrimmage. And Brian Kelly kind of harped on him needing to be more consistent. And we saw that in practice. We saw him come up with a really nice interception on day 1, but then get beat over the top a couple plays later. So for somebody like PJ Woodland, consistency is going to be his best friend. But no, I mean, I'm going to stick to what you're saying too, Preston. I wouldn't be surprised per se if he pushed for a starting spot as well. It's just for me, 4 days in through camp, I look at somebody like Ashton Stamps and I can pencil him in as a starter. I've just been that impressed with what he provides this defense. And he looks so fundamentally sound. And he's really looking good in that number 1 jersey too. So it's been really nice to see him on the field and him kind of take that next step. But look, man, it's a premature take, of course. It's only day 4, but the next 2 to 3 weeks will certainly tell the story there.
Dude, I'm such a numbers nerd, man. Shout out Greg Penn wearing number 3 in honor of Greg Brooks. So that's a cool. Do you have any insight on the backstory why Greg Penn would be the one repping it for him?
He talked to us today, actually. We had player interviews after camp today, and he was talking about how he was kind of gifted that number from his family. He's close with Greg Brooks. He's close with the Brooks family as a whole. And ultimately, they kind of gave him the blessing for him to end up wearing that number 3 jersey.
Yeah.
So he's repping it. And I think a lot of people are happy to see a savvy veteran like Greg Brooks step up and wear that jersey and kind of put that target on his back, per se. I think it's fantastic for him to wear that.
Love that, man. And keep Greg Brooks in your prayers, by the way. He's continuing his battle, and he's a fighter, man. I just hope he comes out on the other side of this the same guy he was before. Man, I mean, maybe that's wishful thinking, but prayers up for him, absolutely. Dane Bergeron with the super chat. I know it's early, but how's the defensive tackling looking? It was almost non-existent last year. Well, I'll say this. The latter part of the statement is absolutely true. The first part, I think it's too early to tell. I didn't see any real live tackling drills. It was their first day in full pads today. Did you catch some of that?
No, I'm going to double down on what you're saying. First day in pads, not too much physicality today when it comes to a tackling perspective. But look, Dane, I'll get you on that in a couple of weeks once I start to kind of lock in once they're in full pads. I'll get a better answer for you there.
All right, Chance Babin with calling us out here. Mike gets more likes on his show because he reads the most comments. All right, we're about to read every freaking comment on the show tonight, guys, so we can beat Mike Scarborough. It's not because Mike and Buddy have been doing it for 50 years together, right? It's 50 combined years, I should say. It's because he's better at reading the comments. Well, we're going to read some comments then, all right? All right, DA, how is Ricky doing? He's getting good reps looking behind number 2 quarterback. All right, in my opinion, in spring, it wasn't particularly close. I thought Ricky Collins just straight up whooped AJ Swan for that backup QB position. I think his SEC experience, his SEC reps didn't mean a darn thing once you strapped up the pads and lined up next to each other. I think Ricky Collins is the more talented quarterback. I think he's the more polished quarterback. I think he's the better runner. I think he's got the stronger arm. I think Ricky Collins is your backup quarterback. I think AJ Swan's gonna have to watch out for Colin Hurley over his back shoulder. What is your thoughts on that?
For me, I think Ricky Collins has certainly taken that next step this offseason. It's pretty evident that he's worked side by side with quarterbacks coach / co-offensive coordinator Joe Sloan. It's been very refreshing to see. His footwork's gotten significantly better. His throwing motion's gotten significantly better. His decision making's gotten significantly better.
Yeah.
For me, looking at Ricky Collins, he's taken that next step in a quarterback room that's obviously razor thin. You really just don't know what could happen. So I've been impressed with what Ricky Collins provides. And if I'm looking at the QB2 battle between him and AJ Swan, I have Ricky Collins, and it's not particularly close. I've been very impressed with what he's done so far. AJ Swan's missed a couple reads here and there, but look, it's been really nice to see Ricky Collins take that next step from year 1 to year 2.
I'm going to disagree on one thing you said. You said it was a thin quarterback room. Man, you've got 4 legitimately, you've got a guy who started games in the SEC, AJ Swan, who's probably going to be your 3rd string quarterback. You've got a redshirt freshman quarterback, 4-star guy, Ricky Collins, pretty highly talented guy, desirable player. And then you've got Colin Hurley, who was a true freshman, highly desirable guy. I don't think I wouldn't describe that as thin. I think you've got a decent.
The only reason I would say it's quite quote unquote razor thin is because, like you said, Ricky Collins hasn't played a snap of really a significant, impactful snap in college football.
And that would be the next guy you're looking at, right?
Experience speaks wonders. And if you're looking at your QB2, look, you want to have a kind of a experienced guy at your second rep. For AJ Swan, he's sparingly played for Vanderbilt on a rough Vanderbilt team. So yes, SEC experience, but sometimes I might not even, Vanderbilt's a tough kind of team when you want to talk about the SEC. Yeah. And then Colin Hurley arrived on campus at 16 years old, man. He just turned 17. It's going to take a lot of time for Colin Hurley to kind of take that next step. So for me, when I say razor thin, I'm more referring to razor thin from an experience perspective. Yeah. But I'm very impressed with Garrett Nussmeier, very impressed with Ricky Collins. And like you said, look, AJ Swan has SEC experience. Take it with a grain of salt if it's Vanderbilt, but he does have that SEC experience. So look, you have guys who can step in and impress if need be. But from an experience perspective, certainly it's a little thin in that regard, but definitely agree with you there.
Hear me out. It is actually very rare to have multiple quarterbacks on your roster who have started SEC games. just the simple nature of the situation of, you only have one starter at quarterback and you have multiple guys who have started SEC games. Look, Nussmeier hasn't started an SEC game, but he started for an SEC team in a bowl game. So you get what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
I do think there's some perspective and lenses you can pop on the quarterback room to
Nussmeier started an SEC game. Didn't he
that.
start against Arkansas his freshman year?
No, he played a bunch. So
Okay.
what was his name? Max Johnson started that game for either one or two drives, and then Nussmeier got like most of the game.
Yeah, so kind of like
did not play well. He threw one incredible throw that, quite frankly, individual throw wise, is probably the most impressive throw I've seen since Joe Burrow chucked it up to Justin Jefferson. A lot of people call me out for that because of, Jaden Daniels. I'm just talking individual throw. The next 10 best throws for LSU were probably all LSU in that category. But that one throw where he broke out of a tackle and just launched it 45 yards after spinning, like, that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Let's see. How worried are y'all for the INT Nuss is throwing? Look, we touched on this earlier. I think that's more of a good sign than a bad sign. I think, like I said, like you said earlier in the comments, not the Fortnite reference, me talking about the Fortnite kid. Yeah. My dad said I need to use more metaphors on the show. So we're going to try more metaphors. And that's the metaphor I went with for show number 1. Yes. If your defense isn't making plays, it's because they suck, not because your offense is that good. If 2019's defense can make plays on that 2019, if a good defense can make plays on 2019 offense, I promise you a good defense can make plays on 2024 offense, right? Come on, guys. It's a good sign. I don't think we're looking at a huge problem of just turning the ball over too much. We might see more than 4 interceptions this year. That was a really low amount for a guy who threw 40 touchdowns. But no, I don't really think it's a big problem. I think it's a good sign. Dane Bergeron, your buddy Gilbo is no longer with Outback. All right. Glenn is a friend of mine, even though he blocked me on Twitter, hilariously. I tease him a lot publicly. That is the nature of our relationship. I like to make fun of, I think he has a lot of bad sports takes, but I think Glenn is a good person. I like him a lot. I was very sad to see his time at Outkick came to an end. I know probably I will be the lone person in the chat tonight who feels that way, but I'm sure he will find a way to bounce back. I wish the best for Glenn. That is how I'll say all that. Good Lord, man. We got a USC fan lighting us up tonight. SC going to light you up September 1st. Let me tell you this. If USC comes in and gives LSU the smackdown for the 5th straight season opener loss, do you know what kind of pressure that's going to put on Brian Kelly all of a sudden? You can't just lose 5 straight openers, right?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. They've struggled in season openers. And you're going up against a USC defense that isn't particularly exceptional. If I'm going to stick with some big words there, they're not particularly exceptional. So I think this offense has a chance to come in and light them up in week 1 for sure. But kind of playing the other side too. USC has an offense that can come in and light up as well. So
Mac Miller, is that his name? The quarterback who started the bowl game? Miller Moss. I'm sorry. Where'd I get Mac Miller from? Is that a rapper?
It's a rapper, yeah. No, it's a firepower offense, and a firepower offense is plural. Rather, I think this is going to be a game where you should certainly bet the over. Obviously a couple weeks out here, so don't no gambling advice over here. But if you're looking at a game that can pump the scoreboard, I think this is going to be one of those. So yeah, look, I see the USC guy talking his stuff, but we got a couple weeks till we get there.
Hey, come on, bring it, man. Give me all the hate. Do what Fire3449 is saying here. Everyone hit the like button. Rob Boudreaux, hit the like. Beat Mike. Hit the like. Beat Mike. That's what we talking about, Rob. That's the chant I'm looking for. That's the SEC difference right there, man. It just means more. I'm going to hit on one kind of just observational overall overview before we go into the nitty-gritties, the starting lineups, that kind of good stuff. Will Campbell had an awesome quote. Did you see it today? Okay. All right. Will Campbell came out and he said, we won 10 games last 2 years, and that's all great. At some places, they'd be happy about that, but not here. We want to do more than win 10 games. And that means Will Campbell gets it, and I think that that's an attitude that starts from top to bottom. You've had some success. You're not celebrating it. This is LSU. No one came here to win 10 games every year. That's the minimum. That's the absolute bare minimum that will keep fans from wanting to run you out of town. Okay. Les Miles got fired following a 9-3 football season, right? So like, let's keep in mind, like that's not okay. You have to do better than that. And I think that echoes a lot of what Brian Kelly said not last year at media days in Dallas. I think that this team has the right attitude. I mean, I think that, and that mentality is important. I think that it's a little more than just, catchy quotes for a post game. I think it actually means something to this team.
Yeah, right? And I'm going to sit back and agree with that. We've heard Nussmeier say the same thing. 10 wins isn't good enough. Obviously, like Will Campbell said, for a lot of programs, that's a successful year. But when you're at LSU, the standard is championships. And for a program like this, you got to win 10 games to make it to that expanded playoff now. You got to win 10 games to get into the top 12. So Will Campbell gets it. Nussmeier gets it. A lot of players get it now. And it's kind of the motto for this team moving into 2024 is that you got to win at least 10 games, but it still ain't good enough. You still got to keep pushing. So I loved what Will Campbell had to say today. He was a fantastic interview. He crushed it. He did very good. So I love that quote, and I love what we got from Will Campbell.
All right, guys, we're going to thank some sponsors real quick. We do have some new sponsors this year. We want to thank them, and we're going to get back. And we're going to dive into defense first. How's defense sound to go in first? I think that's what that's really the $1 million question is the defense this year. So let's go ahead and thank some sponsors. Guys, of course, our title sponsor is back this year. Celebrity Theaters has been so kind as to be our title sponsor for the second year in a row. Guys, remember, they're your only locally owned and operated theater in Louisiana with locations in Baton Rouge and Ruston. For years, Celebrity Theaters has been committed to providing a total family entertainment to all its patrons. Because it's locally owned and operated, you're guaranteed to see a clean facility, better pricing, superior customer service, state-of-the-art technology. The Baton Rouge location has an invigorating arcade featuring over 50 games. It's the largest in town. They have a bar featuring beer, wine, and frozen drinks. They have oversized leather reclining seats, Dolby Atmos 3D sound systems, which I'm just going to tell you, I went to go see Deadpool versus Wolverine. Fan-freaking-tastic. Okay, something about hearing Madonna on those speakers was just incredible. They've got weekly promotions, guys, like their Monday Senior Savings Day, $5 for all patrons over the age of 55. Tuesday is Bargain Tuesday, discounted movie tickets and concessions for all. Wednesday is College Night. Admissions for all college students after 5 p.m. is $5. Baton Rouge location has high-off arcades all day. And, of course, Thursday night at the Baton Rouge location is the Thirsty Thursday discounted bar items. Guys, I'm also happy to introduce Struby's as a new partner. Zack and I went out and had some good steaks there the other night. It is awesome. I love having partners join our show who I not only, not just paying us to tell good things. We've experienced these good things. These are people I would recommend to my friends and family if I wasn't. And I'm going to tell you, I went out and had the Wagyu New York sirloin, New York strip, I should say. Guys, the best steak I've ever had in my life. It was absolutely incredible. Struby's is a place that prides itself on providing that 5-star dining experience at the price of casual dining, right? Zack, what would you get when you went out?
Yeah, I got the filet, and I think it was the crawfish mac and cheese. And I'm gonna tell you this: look, I'm usually not one to throw out tremendous praise for a lot of places. I'm from New Orleans, so when it comes to food, I don't take food lightly. But look, Struby's was phenomenal. I would certainly recommend it to anybody in the Baton Rouge area. And look, even if you're not from Baton Rouge, come on down and get some Struby's because it was really good, man. It was one of the best steaks, if not the best steak that I've ever had. So Struby's is certainly a place to go in Baton Rouge.
Struby's Steak and Seafood. All TigerBait live shows are proudly brought to you this football season by Struby's Seafood and Steaks. Located at 107 3rd Street in downtown Baton Rouge, Struby prides itself on providing a 5-star dining experience for a reasonable price. Struby's is locally owned with ownership in the building daily, taking a level of pride in the food and service that you're just not going to see from just any old corporate establishment, guys. Struby's features a full menu of specialty meats, including USDA prime black Angus Angus steaks, 100% certified Wagyu New York strip. And for those looking for something outside of the meat, they offer things like their dry aged pork chop, which the owner did share a little bit of that with me, and it was fantastic. Black truffle lobster pasta, redfish, and plenty more, guys. Book your reservation online at Strubies.com. Make sure to let them know that TigerBait sent you in. And finally, we do have to thank Alumni Hall is back once again, guys, sponsoring our show again. You can see their great Peter Millar shirts here. Guys, Tiger fans, I'm going to tell you the best place to get all your LSU fan gear is Alumni Hall. Shop their store at Blue Bonnet and Perkins Row, or shop online at alumnihall.com. They've got it all. All the new Nike gear, Champion, Johnny O, Onward Reserve, Peter Millar, Southern Tide, and more. They've got nice polos you've been looking for, Yetis, hats, all the works. LSU baseball gear is coming in now and staying in store through football season. So y'all make sure to get some of that. Shop with them. You can earn rewards on future purchases with their Hall Pass rewards program. I have a discount code that I can share with you here. When you shop, use the code TigerBait, all one word, TigerBait, in store or online, and you'll get 10% off your purchase. Go shop with my friends at Alumni Hall and use the code TigerBait to save. All righty. Let's talk some let's get some comments before we dive into the defense. Let's see here. Championship mentality is something USC can't snip. Man, what a time we've come from. Do you remember? You probably were young, but you remember that USC like mini dynasty they had with Reggie Bush back and all them back in the day? It's. Whew.
I was a little kid, but trust me, I know my football history, and that seems like ages ago, to be honest with you.
You know, I grew up as a kid as an LSU fan, right? We can't be fans anymore. We're professional reporters now, but I grew up an LSU fan. And I remember hating USC because they split that 03 championship and wanting just the program to fall apart. I hated Reggie Bush. I hated that I had to watch them win it in 04. I hated that I had to watch them win every game in 05 until Vince Young took them down, man. But to see the program fall off the way it has, I wish I had spent more time appreciating what Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush, especially Reggie Bush, was so fun to watch, man. It's been sad to see where that program has fallen over the years. Let's see here. There's going to be a lot of 10-2 teams left out in the playoffs. Not all 10-2 teams are equal though. I'll say this. I think in the SEC, 9-3 is the minimum to get in the playoff. I think you might be able to squeak in at 9-3. It'll be tough, but sometimes 9-3, you basically have to be in the top 10 to make the playoffs, because there's either going to be one or two spots that are given to teams that aren't in the top 10, because it goes to conference champions. And statistically speaking, every year there's one Power 5 or one Group of 5, and you get one Group of 5 champion, and then every Power 4 champion gets in, and you're probably going to have one or two of those that aren't in the top 10 and take away basically a free at-large spot. And I keep on telling people, a 9-3 team that makes the playoffs versus a 9-3 team that doesn't make the playoffs is going to be huge, right? I mean, like it's make the playoffs or bust for LSU at this point, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And for me, I think if LSU wins 10 games, goes 10-2, I don't see a way where they don't make the playoff. Obviously, they're not all equal, like Steven said. Not all 10-2 teams are equal. But for me, if you're in the SEC and you go 10-2, I think you have a pretty darn good shot at punching your ticket to the college football playoff for sure. And to what you said too, Preston, look, some teams might go 9-3 and get a good shot. You saw LSU last year. If the playoff was expanded, they would have had a decent shot. Wouldn't have made it, but they would have had a decent shot.
Right.
So, yeah, look, for me, I think if you go 10-2 in the SEC, you're pretty much locked in to make that college football spot.
I'll say this. The SEC is now compartmentalized enough to where you can get an easier road in the SEC, being that,
sure.
There's no 7 teams you're locked in. It is possible you dodge all the good teams in a year in the SEC and you go 10-2 or 11-1, but then you're looking up and you're like, well, you dodged Georgia, you dodged Alabama, you dodged LSU, you dodged Ole Miss, all these great teams you just dodged and went 10-2. Are you truly good enough to get that love? And I think that's something we're gonna see in the future. Now, there's still enough good teams where most teams you're gonna have to go through like 6 good, legit SEC teams every year, but it is possible that you're not. Zack, who is a true freshman on this team who has stood out to you, who's caught your eye?
Man, if I'm looking at a true freshman, if it caught my eye, it's going to be Trey Green.
Okay, that's who I have down too.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I'm just going to say caught my eye once I walked onto the field, it's Trey Green. He's a 6'7", 245-pound monster, and he's really looked the part for this program for the first 4 days. But obviously, him and PJ Woodland are the two guys that I'm sitting there circling. But yeah, no, Trey Green, when he walks in a room, all attention shifts to him because he's an absolute monster, and he's adapting really well to the college football game.
Yeah, no, that's definitely who caught my eye. I was going to go Dominic McKinley as the other one, just full specimen, big guy. Obviously, opportunity for him is there, whereas Trey Green is kind of in a log jam at tight end. Dude, tight end is so stacked. Did you see they had a jumbo formation with Kamorian Pimpton and Trey Green out there? Which, by the way, Pimpton is like 6'6". Trey Green
is a big boy, and it's funny because he's such an impressive receiving tight end. Today he had a phenomenal grab, falling to the ground. He was falling to the ground on the sideline, made a really good catch. So he showcased his receiving ability. But to what you said, man, this tight end room is loaded, and there's so many different skill sets too. Like Mason Taylor is such a polished blocker, but he also has the ability to receive too.
Yeah.
Zack Markway is a true blocking tight end who has to kind of adapt to a receiving role if need be. And then you have two just physical specimens like Kamorian Pimpton and Trey Green who can get down the field vertically and make impressive catches down the field. So the tight end room was kind of a position that lacked talent before Brian Kelly got here, and he's kind of done his work there and absolutely loaded it to a 4-deep group who any of them could get on the field at any given time.
6'7", 245, 6'6", 242. In a goal line situation, you have to think situationally. Those are two guys you're going to line up and say, hey, man, go up and leap over the 5'10" corner for me, please. Like, and I don't know how, as a defensive coordinator, how you approach that. Do you recruit the small forward of the basketball team to come out there and go lock them down? Because that's essentially what you've got is two small forwards playing tight end for you in that situation. Both those guys have been highly, highly impressive to me. Let's go into this defense here. We're going to go position by position, and we're going to kind of tell you starting lineup. Defensive tackle, you got Jacobian Guillory, Gio Paez. Very, very, I mean, we've talked a little bit about them, so we'll brush over them quickly. No surprise there. Yes, how concrete do you think they're locked in as the starters?
I think Jacobian Guillory is a starting defensive tackle without a doubt. You can pencil him in. There's no doubt that he doesn't start week one. For Paez, I mean, we'll see if somebody emerges and kind of takes Bo Davis's eye and takes the attention. They could definitely start over him. But for me right now, it appears that Bo Davis is going with his vets, and he's going to do that with Guillory and Paez. So we'll see what happens there. But I wouldn't be surprised if Washington or even Dominic McKinley, if he hits his stride, kind of pushes themselves into the rotation there. But I think you're going to see a lot of guys play. I don't think it's going to be a set 2-man rotation. I think you're going to see at least 4 to 5 bodies compete.
You think JVR Suggs, maybe Kimo Makanole, Jalen Lee wasn't at practice today. So, there's a lot of guys there who can provide some depth. You just need quality SEC rep caliber guys. There's a big question if a lot of these guys are ready for SEC play once you work your way down the depth chart. I think it's one of those things where it's a position you rotate. Yeah, I mean, naturally you want to rotate your defensive tackles, and it's going to be one of those things where you get to give guys live reps and see how they perform. And I think a lot of these guys are going to have a chance to show what they've got. And I agree with you that they really like Jacobian Guillory. I think he's set for a big year. I think Gio Paez is the one who's going to have to fend off everybody. I'll say keep a particular eye on Dominic McKinley just because we know the physical tools are there. Can he get it above the shoulders? Can he get the mental part of playing defensive tackle? Not many people think of that position as a mental heavy play, and assignment wise, you're right. But fundamentals, technical play, there's a lot of that involved. Edge rushers currently, Savion Jones holds on to his starting spot, and Deshaun Womack as the other starting defensive end. Any of those surprise you? Were you surprised that Womack got the starting spot over all these veterans, the Braden Swinsons, the Parashans, all those guys?
Yeah, so Savion Jones is going to be a week 1 starter, no doubt. But for Deshaun Womack, he's been getting first-team reps because Braden Swinson hasn't been there. You haven't seen Braden Swinson or Jalen Lee. They're both working towards their degrees, so they've missed the first 4 days of camp. But they'll be working back in the mix sooner rather than later. And when it comes down to it, you're going to have a bunch of guys fighting for one spot. I could pencil in Savion Jones as a starter here, but on the opposite side, it's going to be a battle for guys like Womack, Braden Swinson, several guys that can come into the mix, Parrish Shand, and really impress there. But yeah, no, I've been impressed with what Deshaun Womack can do here, and it's going to be a battle throughout the rest of fall camp to see if he can hold on to that spot. But Braden Swinson's going to come back, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with for sure.
I think Womack is the right choice. I think that looking at him last year, I think he had the most talent. I think he's the guy who needs the reps and has the highest ceiling. Keep an eye out for Gabriel Relaford. He had a really good spring. I like him a lot. But I think it's going to be tougher because that defensive end position does have so much better depth. It has a lot better depth. We're talking about, guys like Parrish Shand, Braden Swinson, who were off and on starters, both of them last year. Keep an eye on Dylan Carpenter. Boy, did you see his before and after photo of this year versus last year?
I did. I saw you posted that too, and he's put on some significant size. He looks great. He's filling out that uniform, and he's been impressive so far. He's rotating with the third team for the most part, but like you said, to double down on what you said, you got a talented defensive end room, a talented edge rusher room. And look, Gabriel Relaford is no slouch. This is a true freshman, but this is a guy who's put on tremendous size, who's going to push those veterans for competitive snaps. But look, Savion Jones is a starter in my opinion. Deshaun Womack, look, that's a 5-star phenom here. This is a guy who's a sophomore who didn't get as many reps as a lot of people would have liked to see his true freshman campaign, but he's coming for blood right now. And I've seen a lot of things that would point in the direction that he deserves starting reps come USC week 1.
Move on to linebacker here. And at linebacker, even though they mostly run a 4-2-5 set, right? I'm going to throw in Weeks as a part-time starter. And you tell me if you think I'm off on that. But you've got Whit Weeks, Harold Perkins, and Greg Penn. Am I right in saying that Whit Weeks is probably going to get starter quality reps, even if he's not on the field the first snap?
Yeah, there's no reason for me to disagree with that there. We saw, flashes of pretty impressive of what's to be as a true freshman last year. Yeah. Whether it's goal line sets or whatever you need there, I expect Whit Weeks to be on the field a majority of the time this season. Obviously, Harold Perkins and Greg Penn are going to hold down the fort there, but you got to get somebody like Whit Weeks on the field because he's too good to not keep on there. So, yeah, no, completely agree with you there.
All right, got to get here. Chance Babin called me out. You read 5 or 6 comments and 5 or 6? Man, look, come on, man. There's no less than a dozen comments. All right, Mike need to do some remedial training. Is this a Q&A show? Just curious. I wouldn't call this. Would you call this a Q&A show? I wouldn't. There's some Q&A, but we'll call it an engagement show. I want to be engaged with you. I don't want to read stuff at you, but come on, guys. All right, look. Like and share the video, guys. If you're enjoying what you see, tweet the video out, share it to Facebook, put it in your groups, whatever. Like this video. Like to beat Mike. Hit like, beat Mike. We're gonna beat Mike this week, and if I beat him in likes, I'm gonna FaceTime him, making fun of him that we beat him in likes. Okay, and I'm gonna tweet that out so all of y'all can see it. And if I don't beat him, I'm gonna duck and hide and blame all of you people because I'm reading these comments.
Oh, no, I've been sitting here reading every single one of them. Just laughing.
All right, hold up. Music. He's still here. I actually was questioning: is Music a guy who just comes into every live show and comments "Nuss Bus" and leaves? Is that his propaganda?
He's done that. He did that all last year, and I feel here we are, year 2.
Not just my show, every show. And I was wondering, is he a propaganda machine where he just goes in and comments "Nuss Bus" and leaves? So no. All right, Music. I have a question for you. How does it feel now going from last year? You were more or less referred to, and really the year before that, because he's been doing this for 2 years. He's been doing this basically since Brian Kelly got hired. To go from the guy who was kind of stirring the pot, upsetting people, commenting "Nuss Bus" when we're talking about Jaden Daniels' Heisman campaign, to everybody's yeah, Nuss Bus, I'm with you, Music. How does it feel? You're shifting role to almost go from almost a troll to now you're the front runner. You know what I mean? I want you to respond to how your new brand has taken over. Hashtag hit like, beat Mike. Let's roll with it, man. Hit like, beat Mike. We're going to move on. The star position. Remember, there's a new position in that Blake Baker defense who kind of plays a hybrid safety linebacker role. They put Major Burns there. And to me, that seemed like the most obvious move you could have made, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think for Major, it's kind of all about finding his bread and butter, and he's a big safety. He was a really big safety, and now you get to put him in this hybrid role of, a safety linebacker mix who can, get into the backfield if need be, hold down the second level if need be, or drop back into coverage and do what he needs to do there. So I think this is a spot where he could truly find his bread and butter. And then, behind him, I would have expected Kylan Jackson to be your, backup star. Now you see somebody like Juwan Johnson entering the mix too. So it's been really nice to see Major Burns step up there, but you're going to see a lot of youngsters kind of push for playing time too. So it's going to be fun. I love this new scheme that Blake Baker's implemented, and it's going to be fun to watch over the next couple of weeks to see how it kind of unfolds.
Major Burns is just the definition of a tweener. Big-bodied guy, can make some plays, can cover a little bit, but I think he was a little suspect in coverage as we saw last year. Now, in all fairness, name a defender who wasn't suspect in coverage last year for LSU. Maybe it was more of a coaching scheme type situation, but I still think that this is a good fit for him. Juwan Johnson is interesting there as a backup, and keep an eye on that because I suspect Juwan Johnson is probably going to have more natural, pure cover corners. He's more fluid as a mover. He's more fluid with his hips, and he's a nimble type guy, lighter on his feet than Major Burns has ever been. So, interesting there. All right, corner. We talked about them ad nauseum earlier, so we'll just touch on briefly. You got Ashton Stamps, Sage Ryan. First off, are we still giving the bird to the Sage Ryan haters?
The Sage Ryan haters have certainly been in my mentions over the last couple of days, but there has been nothing that has stood out with Sage Ryan, good or bad. So I can't sit here and say the haters are wrong, the haters are right. I can't say anything to this point yet. Full pads is where I'll get the full story there. But yeah, you got Ashton Stamps, you got Sage Ryan as your first team quarterbacks for right now, and it's going to be a battle down the stretch. You have PJ Woodland, J.K. Johnson, all competing for reps. You have Zy Alexander participating back in the mix as well. Javian Toviano. You have a lot of guys who could start on this team if need be. So it's going to be fun. But yeah, putting Sage Ryan there is not necessarily a questionable move, but one that we'll see if it pays off sooner rather than later.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And then, of course, you got the transfer, Jordan Gilbert from Texas A&M, starting at safety. He was a guy who I think a lot of fans were relieved to see, just to have something different in the defensive backfield, because there's not very many new names back in this defensive field. And then you've got Jordan Allen, the LCA star. How are you feeling about the safeties so far, man? Have they been holding their own, or have they been getting toasted?
No, they've been holding their own for the most part. There's been a lack of 11 on 11 for the media to watch. So I could be wrong there, but from what I've seen, I haven't seen any burnt toast in that regard. But
yeah.
Jordan Allen was definitely one that if you would have told me that he would have been on the first team a couple months ago, I wouldn't have really believed you. I would have been like, what in the world?
Yeah.
He's holding his own. And I've been really impressed with what he provides this defense. And he better watch his back, because you have a true freshman.
Yeah.
You have a true freshman in Deshaun Spears who's coming for blood here. Deshaun Spears is a player who I'd be shocked if he doesn't see the field this season.
And real quick,
well,
for a lot of fans, because I remember back in the day, there was a player called Patrick Johnson. I was very excited about signing up for LSU. 5-star out of Florida. And then camp started, and I didn't hear anything else about Patrick Johnson. I was like, dude, what's going on with Patrick Johnson? I'm so hyped. Everybody keeps on talking about this Patrick Peterson bum. He's not even on Rivals. What's going on here? And then Patrick Johnson had changed his name to Patrick Peterson. And I don't think anybody hasn't heard of Patrick Peterson at this point. Deshaun McBride, the Denham Springs highly rated 4-star safety, who's physically looked every bit of a 5-star player. I mean, he wasn't 5-star, but he was knocking on the door. He looks every bit of that. He's now Deshaun Spears, for those of you getting that mixed up. And him and Kylan Jackson, man, you got to feel good about those two true freshman safeties. Watch out. They are, I think if those two safeties are not ready to go, I think those guys will be chomping at the bit to get
Yeah,
in.
no,
So.
I'm going to completely agree with that. And Kylan Jackson, look, obviously he's a redshirt freshman here, and this is a guy who sat out last year, but he looks the part here. He's a guy who's taking that next step. And a lot of people would have thought he was going to be your backup star, and he very well could be. But in the defensive backfield, he's been playing the second team safety alongside Deshaun Spears, and I am more than excited to see what these two guys can provide this program, because the future is bright in that secondary for sure. And Deshaun Spears, if I'm buying stock in a player right now, it's definitely going to be in him, because the future is bright for him for sure. He's that long, lanky, kind of prototypical safety who can put on more size for sure. And he's getting coached up very hard by Jake Olson during practice. So
Yeah.
I'm intrigued with what he can provide this program long term for sure.
Music says he loves being the front runner now. He's hyped for this season. I bet you are, man. He also commented here, rest in peace, Coach K. Condolences to the Cragthorpe family, LSU's OC from 2011. Nick Cragthorpe passed away last night. I'm sorry, Steve Cragthorpe. I'm sorry, not Nick Cragthorpe. I interned with Nick Cragthorpe at LSU's SID. Of course, I believe I wrote the bio for Brad Cragthorpe, because I was like doing a bunch of the walk-on bios when I interned for LSU. Very sad to hear that for Steve Cragthorpe, of course, being taken away fairly young. He was, he fell victim to his Parkinson's disease. So I reached out to Nick today to let him know how sorry I am to hear about him and, losing his father so early in life. It's a very sad situation. So rest in peace to Coach Cragthorpe. Thoughts and prayers to the Cragthorpe family. Guys, we got one more ad segment. Then we're going to talk about the offense. We're going to go in depth talking about them, the starters, all that good stuff. First, I do have to thank Celebrity Theaters is our title sponsor once again this year, guys. Celebrity Theaters offers 8 to 10 auditoriums, depending on the location, whether you're interested in hosting a birthday party, private movie screening, corporate meeting, or arcade party. They've got the perfect facility to meet your needs. Celebrity Theaters is proud to offer birthday packages for children of all ages. Let them handle everything from movies to entertainment to setup to cleanup. For more information or to book your party online, visit celebritytheaters.com/events or send them an email, events@celebritytheaters.com. And guys, we got to talk about Capital City Grill, who's also chimed in. Guys, one of the things, the Capital City Grill will be sponsoring all TigerBait live shows this fall, so I'm very excited to have them on board. One of the things we try to do with all of our TigerBait sponsors is partner with locally owned businesses we've experienced firsthand, and we can endorse you to provide an outstanding experience for our listeners. Whenever my wife is upset with me, I come home with a dream cake from Capital City Grill. It is, some might call it a monstrosity of a dessert. It is a massive ice cream cake with just about every dessert ever made. It's probably the best tasting ice cream cake I've ever had. That's one of the reasons I'm proud to present them as a sponsor, guys. This football season, we're so proud to add them to our lineup, guys. They're located at 100 Lafayette Street in downtown Baton Rouge. Capital City Grill is your ideal lunch and dinner stop for your casual dining experience. Capital City Grill features a variety of sandwiches, burgers, seafoods, pastas, and steaks, with almost everything priced at $30 or below for an affordable experience. Don't forget to celebrate your Tigers win at their Sunday morning brunch, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. all football season long. Book your reservation online at capitalcitygrill.net and make sure to let them know TigerBait sent them in. And guys, last sponsor here before we get rolling, guys. Really excited that we were able to add Genesis of Lafayette here. So let's hear from them, and I'll tell you a little more after this.
Got a brand new attitude, like bing bang boom on a pink balloon, like I just do what I wanna do, like ooh, brand new.
Guys, I mean, just take a look at that. You can see why they sell more Genesis than any dealer in Louisiana. And guys, I'm gonna tell you this, they're a little more affordable than you might think. I think the average new car is going for like $42,000 these days. You can get in one of these luxury Genesises for maybe a little bit more than that. It is a great buyer experience. For the very best buyer experience of a new luxury SUV or sedan, call them toll free or to set up your test drive, 877-856-2961, and tell them TigerBait sent you in. Guys, I appreciate all of our sponsors for making all we do possible, guys. It's unbelievable how much these shows have grown over the years. I remember starting out on just our Facebook page, no sponsor, no nothing. We had about 30 viewers because nobody knew They really didn't know who I was back then, but I mean, back then people weren't as familiar with Mike as on the live show scene. He had done some radio and TigerBait for a long time, but guys, seeing where these shows have grown since then has been just remarkable. I thank all of y'all for subscribing and making it what it is, and so we can bring in all these sponsors and do a good job here. So let's shift gears here and go into offense. Quarterback, no surprise, Garrett Nussmeier. He's your guy. You feeling pretty good about him? I think we don't need to really touch. I think Zack and I agree that a 3,500-yard season is incoming, and but 25 touchdowns or more. I would say less than 25 would be a disappointment. It's really more so about the turnovers and can we keep those down? I think, anyways, I expect them to do that. I think we're looking at a good season. Let's put it like this. I think this is Nussmeier's last season in a Tiger uniform. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I expect big things from Nussmeier. He has the weapons. He has a lot of. He's kind of an embarrassment of riches to work with on the outside. Chris Hilton, Kyron Lacy, etc.
Yeah.
He's got the guys. I expect at least 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns this year is what I'm kind of setting the bar at right now. I expect him to have a really good year. A lot of people are going to sit back and people are going to kind of harp on these interceptions that he's thrown during fall camp. And for me, I'm not a guy who's going to sit back and judge somebody off of a 4-game sample size. I'm looking at, or a 4-practice sample size. I really think that he has an opportunity to, build off of this and become even better.
All right, running back. I think running back has been the pleasant surprise in a good way this fall camp. I think a lot of these guys look a lot better than you expect. John Emery looks pretty good out there, wearing 22, by the way. They had him listed at 44, and I was like, what a disaster. They gave the boy a walk-on number. I understand he was number 4 before, and he hit the portal, and CJ Daniels came in and took number 4 while he wasn't on the team. But you can't wear 44. You can't wear 44. So I think he looks better than people were expecting. Caleb Jackson or Josh Williams, man, they're going to be your starting backs.
Yeah, I think the goal here is to go with like a running back by committee.
Yeah.
A 1-2 punch. Josh Williams is obviously fantastic when it comes to pass blocking, pass protecting. He's going to thrive right there. And then Caleb Jackson's your freak. This is a guy who's going to dominate in every facet of the game in 2024. I don't even know what to expect come 2025, but I'm really excited to see what he can provide this program. And that's your 1-2 punch. But don't sleep on John Emery. He's been getting some pretty good snaps during practice. I've been a little surprised, but we'll see what happens when it's full contact. Obviously, he has some room to build over there, but work him in a little bit. A 3-horse backfield wouldn't be too bad. Situational for Emery, of course.
Well, I don't know if it's a 3-horse because there's a true freshman by the name of Caden Durham. He looks pretty good. I think he's been a big pleasant surprise. He's very fast, by the way. He's a track star. I believe he ran I'm trying not to get him mixed up. Jelani Watkins ran a 10.22. But, I mean, Caden Durham's another guy right there with him, under 10.4 type runner for the 100-meter dash. I mean, we're talking about elite track speed. I want to say in the Texas State Championship, he came in either 3rd or 2nd behind Jelani Watkins. Really, really like what we're seeing out of him early on. I think that the running backs have been a pleasant surprise for sure. Receiver guys, I mean, Lacy, CJ Daniels, and Chris Hilton. Do you see anybody unseating those guys as your top 3 receivers?
I don't right now. I think Chris Hilton, Kyron Lacy, and CJ Daniels, like you just said, are your starting, your trio of wideouts to go with. But there's going to be a lot of guys who touch the field this year, whether it's Xavier Thomas, Aaron Anderson, Kyle Parker, Shelton Sampson, who obviously a lot of people haven't heard much about Shelton Sampson during fall camp right now. Because on day 1, after making 2 impressive, heavily contested catches, he hit his head and they kind of held him out for caution, for kind of just be a little cautious. But you're going to see at least 5 or 6 guys hit the field this season, probably week in and week out. But your trio of starters are certainly going to be Hilton, Lacy, and CJ Daniels. And I expect big things there. And it's why I expect big things from Garrett Nussmeier as well.
I'll say this, certainly for game 1. But if any of these guys struggle, I mean, you have can you see Aaron Anderson being a guy who pushes for a starting spot if one of them slips?
Without a doubt. If I'm sitting here just talking about receivers that could touch the field, I just listed off 5 or 6 guys. Yeah. But don't sleep on 2 true freshmen in Kylan Billiot and Jelani Watkins. Like you just talked about a second ago, Jelani Watkins is a flat-out speedster. You give him the ball in open space on a bubble screen or anything there, and who knows, man, he could turn it up for 40, 50 yards, take it to the house, whatever you need. So Jelani Watkins is a guy, too, who I've got my eye on. And Brian Kelly harped on him in a positive light during SEC Media Days. He said that he's a guy who stood out since he got on campus as a summer enrollee. So the receiving depth is significant. Obviously, you don't have your massive standouts like Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, but you have a guy like Kyron Lacey who's trying to get into that kind of conversation, as well as Chris Hilton. You have a CJ Daniels guy who, we should probably be talking about a little bit more too. He had 1,000 yards last year, double-digit touchdowns. The receiving, I can go on and on for days about the receiving core here, and I expect big things from this position group.
I'll tell you this, Jelani Watkins, if my future dynasty on EA College Football 2025 is indicative of anything, is that Jelani Watkins is going to be a monster. Okay. He's a guy who just has elite speed, and all you have to do is throw him the fade. And I hope it works that way in real life for him. By the way, guys, I'm thinking about this year, maybe doing, so I've been doing a little bit of streaming on my personal channel of the game. I'm thinking about maybe doing an overtime show later this year where after we do our podcast, I hop on and play the game and we talk some more sports. If that's, I need some feedback though. Is that tacky, goofy? Do you want to watch something like that? I mean, I know there's really not much going on after 9 o'clock on the live sports scene. So I was like thinking maybe that's something I'll give a try this year, but only if y'all are interested. Give me honest feedback. I want people telling me if it's tacky and they won't watch or not. So y'all give me some feedback on that idea. Moving on to O-line. I mean, dude, this O-line, it's just, there's been no signs of cracking on this O-line, right? Like most elite unit in the country. Look, I'll go left to right. You got Will Campbell, left tackle. Let's see. You got, what's the guy? Miles Frazier, left guard. At center, you've got DJ. How many? What's his last name? DJ. What's that? Chester. DJ Chester. I'm sorry. Right guard is going to be, and I had this written down, guys, and I'm just like, now I'm having to like.
Yeah, no worries. From left to right, you've got a lot of guys. You got
Dellinger.
You got Will Campbell at left tackle, Garrett Dellinger,
Emory Jones
at
right
guard,
tackle, yeah.
DJ Chester at center, Miles Frazier at right guard, and Emory Jones at right tackle. And you kind of let you take the floor there. Obviously, you got a lot of talent there, but carry on, Preston. Tell me what you like about this offense.
No, well, I just was kind of stumbling there. I was like, how I get with names, guys. But anyways,
we've covered a lot of topics here. It's hard to not
Dellinger, right? Yeah. Anyways, guys, this is probably going to be the most elite unit you've ever seen at LSU. In practice, they are doing drills with the D-line, and they continue to get the best of them. They did not give up very many sacks. I think this year, what I've noticed is Brad Davis is spending a lot of time with his second team O-line. Have you noticed that? It's really funny to me.
I was about to say that. Sorry to cut you off, but like him spending time with the second team, it's like he's just priming them for next season already.
Yeah,
it's been truly impressive for me. I watched him get on Weston Davis today and just say like, "What are you doing, 5-star? Like, we're gonna get you right," type deal. It was super impressive. He was hands on with them every single practice so far, but today certainly caught it by attention. And that group is impressive. Headlined by Tyree Adams, who's your left tackle.
Left tackle, he's impressive, man. He's a physical
this guy
specimen.
Who's your sixth man. He's going to step in if need be. Hopefully he doesn't have to, but if he does need to, I don't think he'll skip a beat. I have very high hopes for Tyree Adams, and Will Campbell kind of alluded that to today. He was talking very highly of Tyree Adams during his presser, and I love what we got there. And then on the opposite side, on the other tackle slot, you have true freshman Weston Davis, who's put on about 25 pounds since he got to campus. And 5-star guy. I love what I've seen from him so far, and Brad Davis has not been shy about coaching him up. So to what Preston was saying here, this is probably your deepest position group, and you have talent all across the board. You got 10 guys who are truly fantastic, and the list can go on and on. You could probably put in 11 or 12 guys if need be, but super impressive group headlined by Will Campbell and Emory Jones, the top tackle duo in the country, and we'll see what they can do. We'll see if they can bring home that Joe Moore Award this year.
I almost want to talk more about the backup offensive line simply because you lose 4 out of 5 of these guys this year. On the interior, you got Paul Mabinga at your left guard, Cohen Coles, true freshman, at your center, and you've got Bo Bordelon, LSU legacy prospect there at right guard. So I like Weston Davis as a backup offensive tackle. I like Tyree Adams as a physical specimen there. Brad Davis is a stud. What a stud. I mean, he has just done some remarkable work, and it's really nice because his first year at LSU, not very many people were saying that about him because, that offensive line was so putrid that year, but it takes some time. You got to let this guy cook. You know what I mean? A lot of my notes on the offense I've already touched on. We talked about the jumbo package with those two twin towers at tight end. It's just been a lot of fun. The running backs, Durham looking good is a pleasant surprise to add into the mix. I think it's gonna be hard to redshirt Durham this year. Any major offensive takeaways? That you have?
If I'm looking at somebody like Trey Green. I mean, this has been a guy. If we're strictly talking about the offense as a whole, Trey Green has been fantastic. He's a guy who really burst on the scene day one, and he hasn't been playing football all his life. So this is a late bloomer, and he hasn't skipped a beat in college ball so far. So he's been a guy that's really impressed me. And then you have to look at the tandem of the receivers right there, Kyron Lacy and Chris Hilton. I have not seen them drop a ball yet, and I've seen a lot of people talk smack about Kyron Lacy and his drop issues in the past, and it's real. He's had some problems dropping passes in the past. And for me, it's evident that he's been in the facility just working day in and day out to avoid those issues. And for me, I haven't seen him drop a ball yet. And I've spoken to a couple other media guys too who doubled down on that. So my takeaways would be the receivers are looking extremely disciplined, extremely poised. Trey Green is obviously shining. And then Caleb Jackson is just an absolute monster. I mean, 6 foot 235. He's put on 35 pounds since he got to campus in 2023. He looks the part. He looks like a guy who could really shine in 2024. But I have high hopes for this offense. And that's because the offensive line is just so seasoned. You got some guys up front who can really hold it down, give Garrett Nussmeier time, block for guys like Josh Williams and Caleb Jackson. So for me, I have so much hype surrounding this offense right now. I think I personally need to tune back a little bit, take a breath, and relax because obviously it's not 2023. But for me, I have high hopes on this team, and I need to make sure I don't get ahead of myself because I'm very impressed with what I've seen so far.
Let's put it like this, okay? When people are excited about this offense, we're not excited comparing it to last year's offense, right? That offense was generational. LSU's had 2 generational offenses in our lifetime, and it's remarkable that they both happened within a 5-year window, but, it is what it is. Nobody's expecting a repeat. In fact, they were both top 3 offenses in SEC history, which is a wild stat if you ask me. I think we're just, let's put it like this. Do you think this is a top 20 offense in the country this year?
I'd like to say so.
I think comfortably.
I'd like to say so. And look, I know I kind of rambled on there and was just talking about how excited I am about this team. And it's a small sample size. I've only seen 4 practices so far in fall. But in the spring, they looked impressive. They've also looked impressive now. Look, Garrett Nussmeier has the weapons to succeed here.
Yeah.
Top 20 offense for sure, Preston. I'm gonna
top
leave it
20
at that.
for sure. I think where I'd start to get nervous is if you ask me top 12 offense nationally. I'm like, that's tough. That's real. And a lot of that, again, it's like your neighbor's Fortnite kid. A lot of that is dependent on who you're playing. LSU does have a more negotiable schedule than they've had in a long time. And by the way, a year ago, it did not look like a manageable schedule. But both the LA football teams have kind of dropped off a bit. And I think you got a really lucky card dealing with the SEC teams you got to deal. I mean, you still got to play Bama, you still got to play Ole Miss, but this is doable. 10-2 is workable this year for this team. I'll say this on tight end. We're talking about, people keep on asking me, is Mason Taylor going to be 1,000-yard receiver this year? They're like, there's no, last year he couldn't shine because you had those 2 first-round picks at receiver here. Your boy Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, and of course he wasn't getting love. So of course you got to think they're going to be looking to the tight end. I'll say this: number one, 1,000 for a tight end is a crap ton. But let's lower the bar and say 800 yards. Do I think the tight ends will catch 800 yards for LSU this year? Probably, or somewhere close to that. But do I think it's all Mason Taylor? I think you have too many good tight ends. You have to start using them situationally. You cannot just go with one tight end. You're going to have to rotate these guys. You got to get Kamarian Pimpton involved. You got to get Trey Green involved. You got to get these guys, even Matt Markway in blocking down situation. You got to get him involved. I think those guys combined will come close to 800 yards. I don't think just Mason Taylor's going to do it because he's going to have to split time. You're going to have to keep those guys fresh. Anyways, guys, that's our practice wrap up for today. We will be back next Monday. So y'all make sure to tune in. If you have it, hit like, beat Mike. We're not getting made fun of this week. We need likes on our video. Y'all make sure to go follow Zack Nagy on Twitter. Okay, Zack has been putting out some bangers on Twitter here recently. I mean, they've been blowing up real big. It's actually fun to watch, like, how you've grown so much with followers. Like, I think when I reached out and invited you to do this show, I think you had like just cracked 1,000 followers. And now like you're knocking on the door of 4,000. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like he's been doing some grinding on Twitter. So if you want some detail oriented stuff, go follow him at Znagi20, Znagi20. We talked about this before the show. Guys, I said Nagy for a year. It's Nagy. I know that's one of those like subtle phonetic things, and you know he would come off pretentious to connect you, but it's Nagy, and we're gonna get that right moving forward. Anyways, follow me on Twitter at pguy77. Keep up with the work, guys. Give TigerBait a try, guys. We've got tons of practice video, post practice reports from Mike and Bunny. We've got Ryan Lazar. Columns about the team, good stuff coming out just constantly from the site. We have free and premium content. You can give us a try for $1 for a week if you are interested in the premium side of things. We're there. But guys, most importantly, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Thank y'all for 31,000 subscribers. That is unheard of for a local LSU sports YouTube channel. So I appreciate y'all for getting us to that mark. Y'all have a great night, and we'll see y'all next week.